We are now live on Facebook and on YouTube and in the Reinventing the Tattoo community. My name is Gabe Ripley. I am here from Reinventing, and this is a special History of Tattoo Conventions show by Alex Van Dutch of World Tattoo Events with Goodtime Charlie. I'm just going to thank Reinventing, thank Guy, and all of our sponsors, and hop off because we've had some battles with the technical gods, but we've sacrificed enough. And I'm going to pass this right over to Alex. So Alex, thank you very much for helping us dive into the history of tattoo conventions.
Thank you, Gabe, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. And Charlie, thank you so much for doing this with us today. First of all, welcome. And as probably Gabe introduced you, I'm the guy who talks about tattoo conventions. And during this pandemic, where we didn't have any tattoo conventions for a couple of years, I thought it would be cool to start digging into the history of tattoo conventions. So we've been doing a few podcasts about conventions and some of the other conventions around the world, and we also did some episodes with some of the some tattoo artists which have been around longer enough to tell us something that we don't know about tattoo conventions. And I'm in particular interested in the period, like from the 70s, 80s, 90s, the pre-internet era, when and try to find out what happened then. It's the sort of stuff that we don't know. I mean, we know very little probably of it. So yeah, welcome to be on board with us today. And by the way, this is Goodtime Charlie Cartwright from US, and an historical figure. I mean, I'm extremely honored to have you. I'm a little bit, how do you say that? Emotion through this. So yeah, sorry about that. Anyhow, yes. First of all, yeah, how are you?
Well, I'm doing good so far. I'm glad I'm not connected to that electronic world like you guys are. My God, that's just so crazy.
Well, it is crazy also for us. I mean, it's not always a very smooth ride. It's just challenging for us as well to keep up with it.
Yeah, I'm told I don't even have a cell phone, so you can see how interested I am in technology. I'm from a different era.
Yes. Well, that's what we're trying to find out. I know a little bit about you, and I know you started tattooing in the 50s, if I'm correct, around 1955, hand poking tattoo.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a period in time where, most of us were not around. What can you tell us about, how did you get into tattooing, and how did you get into hand poke tattooing? I mean, where did you learn it to do it?
Well, where I grew up, it was illegal to tattoo in the city of Wichita, Kansas, because of past experiences with different nefarious individuals that were operating. And there were some gypsies tattooing in the back of a bar, and also an old man that tattooed out of a trailer behind the biggest hotel in town in the parking lot. And so both of those were shut down by the police for tattooing kids, because you only had to be 16 years old to get tattooed, but they were tattooing 12-year-olds. Anybody that could lay the money on them, they didn't care. So because it was illegal to tattoo there, no professionals ever came there. And so I was never exposed to professional tattooing at all. And all I ever saw was hand poke tattoos by different gang members. And but I was never, even though I saw them on all these people, the different around town, I was never really fascinated with the idea of tattooing until I saw a guy with a full body suit of jungle with all the necessary animals in it. and it was done professionally. And I failed to ask him who did it, but I was so smitten with it. I was just amazed. And when he showed me, I thought, wow, I've got to figure out how you do that. And
Right.
so being exposed only to hand poke tattoos, I just pursued it that way because that's all I knew, and there was nobody else to learn from. And but my grandmother, or my great grandmother, was a real famous seamstress in town, and she had every kind of needles you could imagine. She had lace needles, real fine ones, and she had real bulky ones. She had any size or situation for machines or by hand. And so I used to get needles from her all the time. And
so you gotta credit your grandmother for providing you the early tools to get into tattooing.
Yeah, and so I started tattooing out of my car when I was 15, and I
You could
always
drive a
had,
car by then?
yeah, I got my
You
first
did,
car
yeah.
when I was 12,
Wow,
and yeah, in Texas.
different time.
Yeah, nobody back there, everybody knew how to drive when they were kids because they drove all the pickups and stuff with and all the farm equipment and everything. So everybody knew how to drive. And so I got my first car when I was 12, and it was on my I was on my third one when I started tattooing. It was a 46 Chevy. Yeah, it was my third car.
At the age of 15.
Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
So anyway, I always had business because I knew how to draw, and I could just fix them all up. No matter what they wanted, I could take care of them. And so I had my whole headliner in my car drawn with designs. It was an old felt headliner. And so I drew with a ballpoint pen on there, and guys would get in there and they would lean back in the seat and say, hey, I like that kind of a cross, and I like that kind of a banner. And so, it was just like my flash, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, so you were already making flash designs or something? I mean, how would you choose the tattoos? I mean, how would they choose? I mean,
well, this wasn't on paper, except although I did have 3 tablets that spiral notebooks that I had filled up with different things they could get, but I didn't care. I could draw anything they wanted. And so I was always a custom tattooer from day one. And so I never did understand it when I started pursuing the professional world, why these guys all just traced everything. And I thought, wow, these guys can't even draw, and they're putting pictures on people. I didn't get that. So that was kind of I don't know, a bummer for me to discover. And I thought, well, I don't even know if I want to be associated with that world, if that's what they're all about. It's just, just colorful.
So you were one of the really first custom tattooers. I mean, you would really do whatever the customer wanted, which at the time was only flesh, right?
Yeah.
If you would get into a proper tattoo shop or something like.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how I pursued it. So later on, when I was exposed to professional tattooers in California, when I came out here, I got tattooed in San Diego first by Tahiti Felix Lynch. And he put an anchor on me on my right arm.
Do you still have it?
Huh?
Do you
Oh
still
yeah,
have
I still have it. Yeah.
That was the first.
Yeah.
How you gonna show it?
Let's see. It's right there. It's
Is
right
that
in the middle of all this.
Oh wow! So that one, is it what, like 6 years old or something, or?
Yeah, that's that was 1959. I got that. So
that would be 62 years.
Yeah. So and so I've been actually connected with tattooing for 66 years now, and because I started off hand poking, I think it was a tremendous advantage for me because I used multiple needles for large cover-ups and stuff, to make black. I'd have multiple needles on a popsicle stick, and, could really do massive cover-ups pretty quick.
So they were already popular.
Huh? Yeah.
They were already popular cover-ups at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, because people fall in and out of love every day. And
Right.
so lovers' names alone, I think in California would keep a guy busy, covering up or applying them or covering them up. One, you get them coming and going. So
Right. Yeah, they didn't know probably at the time that you shouldn't do that. I mean, to put in your your next boyfriend on your body and your next boyfriend name.
yeah.
But
And so anyway, so when I was exposed to professional tattooing, that really concerned me about them not being able to draw. And most of them all had that opinion. If it's not on the wall, you're not going to get it, and unless it was for a name, that was the only thing they might draw on there. But just to show you how actually limited these guys were, there was one guy that hung around the Pike, which was an amusement park in Long Beach, and they called him, he was an old wino they call Scripto, but this guy could really letter really well, and he didn't tattoo at all, but the tattooers would pay this guy. They buy him a bottle, just to draw a name on this guy's arm, and then he would tattoo it. And or they'd give him some kind of money, compensation just for drawing the name on, because he had a real elaborate script manner of cursive writing. And so anyway, they were very limited, I felt. And I thought, wow, I think you should give people whatever they want. And I think in the video, I did say, you got to give them the haircut they want. And so I didn't understand it when people would turn away money just because they couldn't draw something, and I thought, wow, why are they even tattooing? I don't understand it, But anyway, I eventually learned to appreciate carny tattooing because of the simplicity. I really understood. They wanted to do them fast and quick, and so they used all these real simplification, and they used such bold lines and so forth. And with even with those real heavy lines, they could make a couple of little lines just in the right manner and have the cutest little mouth on those little pinup girls and stuff,
Portraits. Yeah.
So there was some method to their madness, simplification. And obviously they didn't want to dilly-dally on a big, long piece of work. They wanted to get you in and get you out. So I was tattooed actually in San Diego by Painless Now, and her cousin, or she called her sister, had a wooden leg, and one did the outline and one did the shading.
Oh wow! Okay, so teamwork for a full tattoo. Nice.
Yeah, and they worked in a bucket shop, with the Listerine, a bucket full of Listerine water, and
wow.
And
that's
so and a sponge, and that's everybody got washed down with same water.
Same sponge, same water.
Yeah, yeah.
And
they all got shaved with the same straight razor.
Oh wow. You see, those are the interesting things I like to hear, like it's how much things have changed since then. And you've been tattooing then by yourself, hand pocket tattooing for the first few years, right? And then you discovered tattoo machines at some point in your life.
Well, yeah, but before I even started tattooing professionally, I did end up with a homemade rig, but I didn't like it. And so I went back to doing hand poked again, because there's just a certain way that it's just the machine. I just didn't relate to at all. I just didn't like.
Right.
And so I went back to hand poking until in I want to say 72 maybe. I
That's
did.
when I was born.
Huh? Yeah,
That's
72.
when I was born.
I
I'm
think
from
it was.
72.
I told my wife, I said, I'm just going to go back down to the pike and get some more answers from these guys, because they all gave me the cold shoulder, even though I was tattooed by many of them and knew some of them, I guess you would say on just a professional level, just receiving a tattoo from them, 2 or 3, sometimes, from different individuals. And but still they would not share anything. It was always they just sat right on it and wouldn't tell you nothing. And when
do you
I
remember some of the names of these guys?
Huh?
Do you remember some of the names of these guys or those early tattooers?
Well, Bert Grimm for one.
Oh, well.
And Owen Jensen, worked with him as well. And Fred Thornton, and
Right,
Don Nolan, and there was 2 or 3 other guys that even Rio de Janeiro, who was Lou Lewis's son. And Lou Lewis was one of my favorite tattooers. He was just a real quiet guy. And the reason I admired the guy was because he amazed me that he actually paid his way through dental school to just for the mere sake of being able to build his own teeth and his wife's teeth. But he went all the way through dental school, just for that purpose. And
Wow.
I thought, isn't that an odd guy? Yeah.
That's some real persistence there, I think, or dedication.
Yeah. And, okay, go ahead.
No, I was wondering, like being in that context. So also seeing like around in the 70s, you opened your first tattoo studio, from what I understood. And then what was it, like 1975?
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, and from there, I was wondering if at the time you had the opportunity to I mean, I'm not talking about tattoo conventions, but did you experience or did you have the opportunity to go to any tattoo meetings or gatherings between other tattoo artists or anything which was prior to the convention of Ed Hardy in 1976, right?
Yeah,
and I was wondering if you've been there.
Yeah, I didn't attend. Well, there was only one convention before that in Texas, and I didn't go to that. And Jack Rudy, my apprentice, asked me, he said, how come we're not going to that? And I says, well, I don't know. I said, just because they're tattooers don't mean they got anything on the ball. I mean, there's a lot of just real jackasses in this business. And and so I said, so I don't really relate to them just because they put pictures on people. And so we didn't go. And but then the next year, when they had the one in Reno, Jack and a customer of mine both, who I tattooed all around the area there for years at Long Beach. Even I worked on him, and but he kept telling me as well, come on, man, we can drive up there, and come on, and my customer, he was a real big bodacious guy that was really covered up and a biker type guy. And anyway, him and Jack kept bugging me, and I finally said, okay. So that's when we went, and we're exposed to these other guys. It started everything because they started coming, Ed Hardy says, wow, this is really blowing my mind. This guy's back. And I says, wow, why would Ed Hardy be impressed with anything we're doing, and because I thought of him as Mr. Tattoo at the time,
Yeah.
but he was very impressed with just the black work, and I thought, wow, we crank it out every day in East LA. And he said, well, would it be okay to come hang out? I said, why not? So that started it all. He started, he brought Bob Roberts and different ones, Mike Malone and Mike
which
Brown.
period was this?
Huh?
What year was that? What year?
That was 76.
1976. Okay, so we're talking about then this first event of Ed Hardy.
Yeah, and then so that was I guess, and then that inspired him to open up Tattoo City, the original Tattoo City in San Francisco, based on that concept of catering to lowrider in the Mexican community, that particular culture. What he was so fascinated with, that I was catering to a lifestyle,
Yeah.
and but to me, it was a natural thing for me because I grew up around that type of atmosphere, and a different area though, but I grew up around Mexican people and hung out with them and tattooed them, and I knew all the subject matter that they liked, and I also knew the way they liked it to look, so therefore all we did, in my opinion, was just elevate what was thought of as ghetto art into, acceptable, refined tattooing, because it just had more of a refined look done by real artists and not just jailbirds that were doing backward shading and everything,
So this is what led you to the single needle tattooing or fine line tattooing.
Yeah,
like
and
this
they
style,
like that.
right?
That's what they like, and so that's what we gave them, and once again, you gotta meet the customer's demands, and so to me, I thought that was if that's what they want, well, that's what we'll give them, and look where it went. Who could imagine, All we were doing was, like I said before, I didn't want to set the woods on fire. I just wanted to start a little blaze in the homies' hearts,
Yeah, just do your trades, do your things. And well, did you ever imagine that it would become that so big and so popular as it is these days?
No, who could imagine? Yeah, like one guy told me couple of years ago, he said, Charlie, it's a big deal, man. It's all over the world now. And I said, I know, but I didn't plan it this way, of course. I'm glad it turned out like this, but
That's somehow you started it, right? Together with Jack, and Jack started to work for you at your studio, right?
Yeah.
And as far as I understand, you basically teach him how to tattoo. You were his first mentor, basically, right?
I met him at the Pike when I was working there. He brought 2 or 3 or maybe 4 customers to me over a period of time, and he would draw designs on them, and then I would tattoo them. And because he had an interest in tattooing, but he had a homemade rig that broke down on him, and he was tired of messing with it. And so so they decided to find somebody that could actually tattoo, and that was a public tattooer. So he was bringing all his friends to me, and after I saw a big piece of cardboard that he was scribbling on after him and his friend left, and I picked it up and I thought, wow, look at this. This guy, he's got what it takes, I think, because I was looking at 8 or 10 different versions of Cholo, gang writing, and then I was also looking at some real nice cursive and some a little bit of realism on one side and a bunch of cartooning. And I thought, wow, this guy's really got something to offer the world, you know? And so that's the thing I think that's missing quite often now is the only people that I ever apprenticed besides my children was Jack and Creeper. And I sought them out. I asked them. They didn't ask me, you know, because I think that's the key right there is finding the talent and then elevating it, you know. And instead of having some guy off the street bug you about getting in the business. And that's what I told Jack eventually there too. Well, the next time I saw him, I told him that. And I said that in the movie, I believe. But I said, hey, man, right? Hey, man, give me your grandma's number or your mama's number, phone number. And when the time is right, I'll break you in. And he goes, really? And I go, yeah, but don't even ask me once about when we're getting started or it's off. And he said, okay, man, okay. So when the time went, I searched and searched for a building. And when I did find it after at least a year or more, I knew it was the right place. And once a week, I would drive down Whittier Boulevard and check it out. And so anyway, when I did spot the place, I told him, and he was thrilled. He said, it's perfect timing. And I think that's the way it is in life, you know, it's timing. And so it was perfect for him to enter the business. And he was, obviously, he's been a real asset to the tattoo community.
Of course, yeah. A very huge contributor, I would say. I mean, a giant.
But him and Creeper both, I approached him. You know, I watched Creeper airbrushing my truck. And I said, have you ever tried tattooing? And he said, oh, I did a little bit in the pen. And I said, well, bring some skin and we'll see what you can do. And then I told him, I says, well, because I had told him I would wrap his lower arm with girls' heads if he would paint my truck. And he said, okay. So, but then I saw him doing that. And so I started him tattooing as well. And he was a real asset to the business as long as he lived. He just died last year, COVID.
Well, COVID.
But he was elderly, you know, he was 77 or something and had multiple health issues. So, you know, but anyway, both of the ones that I approached turned out to be great tattooers.
Great.
And because I think that's what you need to do is find the talent and help it along, you know.
Of course, yeah. And then they spent most of their working life with you as well. I mean, most of their career has been together with you, right?
Yeah.
At the studio. And with Jack, I met him the first time only a few years ago in London, and actually was I was introduced to him by the guy of Tattoo Nation, I believe, Eric.
Eric.
He was looking at promoting his movie through my website for conventions.
Right.
And at that time, you know, one of the first things that Jack told me is that by then he had been already to over 400 tattoo conventions around the world, which
I believe it.
Yeah, so I haven't met anybody which made so many tattoo conventions, you know. So yeah, I was wondering if you guys went together to a lot of tattoo conventions, you know, like in US, or, you know, if it is something you guys did together, or it was something that he was doing by himself.
Oh, he was the conventioneer. I went to a few of them in my life, but not. I think I've ran across a list the other day, and I think I had a list of 18 conventions that I had went to at that time, and I don't know when the cutoff date was on my list, but there was only 18 on there, and I thought about Jack at the time when I looked at that, and I thought, man, that guy has been to hundreds of conventions.
Hundreds, exactly.
But yeah, me and him have been to a few together, but not very many at all.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Which are some of the events you you remember doing with him in US, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, mainly at Taki's show in San Francisco. And I don't know if he's going to have any more. I haven't heard. But I went to that for several years when he had them. And Jack was at every other one, I think. He always, for some reason, there was always a car event that was happening, you know, some kind of a hot rod deal going on. There was 2 shows a year Taki did, and Jack would always be at one and not the other because he'd go to the hot rod thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so we went to that one together, and then we've been at a couple of national conventions in years past. We've been at several of those together.
So you're talking about late 70s, early 80s, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. The late 70s and well, especially the 80s.
The 80s, right?
Yeah, we went to quite a few. And of course, I went to a few that he didn't go to as well. He didn't go to every one I did, and I certainly wasn't even trying to go to every one he did. Wow.
So he was spreading around.
Oh yeah, that guy was, you know, I'll tell you a funny thing though about that he was always on the road. And I used to tell him, well, nobody that lives in your community can ever get a tattoo from you because you're never there. And that
so
was,
you have to go to a convention with him maybe to get a tattoo by him.
Yeah, and he would just get home and he would be packing for another one. And but he's the only person I know who actually missed 2 flights while being in the airport when both flights left. How can you explain that? That's the kind of guy he is. A clock means nothing to the man, or a calendar. He lives.
No concept of time.
Yeah, you know. I actually gave him a plaque that I found. It had a tall ship. This was on a brass plate, or a brass-looking plate. And it had a tall ship on it, and it says, "I know which way the wind is blowing, but I still choose to follow my own direction."
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And that's that guy exactly, because he listens to a completely different drummer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and yet if you're expecting a tattoo from him at 10 p.m. because he said 10 p.m., you're dreaming. He might show up at 11 or 12 and then have a phone conversation about chroming his bumpers or something with somebody till 1 or 2 in the morning eating potato chips, and then he might get started on you. Wow. It's just amazing that he can get away with that. And so I told him once, I said, you know how many lives you've ruined because you don't listen to pay any attention to anybody's needs, like having to go to work at 7 or 8 in the morning, you know, and you keep them here till 5 or 6 in the morning and send them home maybe 100 miles away. They're going to be late for work, no shower, no breakfast or any of that. And he says, well, I'm going to tell you something. He says, how many times have you pointed at somebody's arm and said, who did that? And they'll say, oh, some old guy at so-and-so place. And he says, well, by God, they're never going to forget my name. And that had to be the truth, because, wow, I'm sure some of them will never forget that experience. How could you, you know?
And this is because, like, at the time, maybe you didn't have that many tattoo artists that you could recognize people from where they were coming from according to the tattoos they had. Oh,
yeah. In fact, that's what I told I spoke to 70 tattooers recently, and I told them that same thing. I says that when I was young, you could look at someone's arms and know where they were from and who did their tattoos. And I says, but now, and I was talking to some lady from England, I believe, a while back in an interview, and she said, I was telling her that same thing. I said, but now these people, you could be standing behind a lady at the Walmart or at the market, and she's totally got a bodysuit now, a soccer mom.
Sure.
And the girl down the street, probably in your same block, may have done all that for all you know, because everybody's a tattooer now. Everybody's a tattooer.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that?
Well, I used to bitch about it being too many, but I guess it looks like there's enough to go around because tattoos just keep happening everywhere. And so it seems to me like nobody's hurting for business, you know, so it's so popular. Everybody can do it and get away with it, no matter what your product is or what a jerk you are. It seems like you got business, you know.
Everybody has yeah. Everybody can carve a little niche in this business, basically.
It's amazing. And once again, who could even have imagined in their wildest dreams that everybody would be a tattooer or even want to be one, you know? And
well, yeah, now it's a profession. I mean, you know, like you can just go to school and then say like to an art school or whatever, and then say, you know, I'm going to become a tattooer, and that would be like a respectable job.
It's such a common craft now.
Yeah.
Where it used to be such an oddity. But I realized that we were going through drastic changes probably 20 years ago or more. Almost every time I would go into a restaurant, the waitress would say, "Are you a tattoo artist?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And they go, "So's my boyfriend." And so I thought, oh my God, everywhere I go now, their boyfriend is a tattooer. What's this world coming to? And here it is. Where literally almost everybody is one.
I'm not a tattoo artist. There you go. I'm one of the few who doesn't tattoo for a living. I mean, because I think that too many people which would do it. I do, so
well, you know, years ago, actually, before I came to Modesto here, which was 33 or 4 years ago, whenever it was, 35 maybe, I wouldn't even teach my own cousin's kid who was a freak on tattoos, because I said, the bus is full already. And this was 30 some years ago. And, well, now it's a never ending train, and they keep adding cars to it, you know, so it's never full.
No,
that's why you can never identify all these people's tattoos or where they're from, you know, you can never do that now.
I mean, I guess like if you would go, let's say to a convention like back in the 80s or 90s when you were going probably a little bit more, I mean, you would probably know a lot of the people around at the time. And if you would compare it to going to a convention these days, I don't know if you speak to events. I mean,
well, I don't know if I don't think you could compare it to the same, because back then they didn't have tattoo conventions with hundreds of booths. When we used to go, there might be 20 or 30 booths, maybe 40 for a big one, you know.
For a big convention, 40, wow.
Yeah.
Now would be like it wouldn't be a convention with 20. Well, you still have some small, but you know, most people are 24.
Yeah, it's just really it's just amazing that I've heard of conventions. I'm not going to any of them, but I've heard of some of them that have up in the thousands of booths. So
Philadelphia, so probably 1,500.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's one of them. And until recently, well, probably the last couple of years now, I've been stopping at different tattoo shops on the road. I like that, running around and just seeing a random tattoo shop, stopping in there, see who's in that building and have a word with them. And And but I've discovered recently that, well, over the time period I'm talking about running around the roads on, I've discovered that the shops have not only, there's more tattooers at the trade anymore, but there's the shops themselves are quite large compared to what they used to be. Because I remember many single tattooers, you know, solo lone wolf type operators. And then you would have maybe shops with, well, like Bert Graham's, he would have 3 or 4 tattooers at the most working at a time. And even if the shop was full of sailors, there was only like 4 or 5 places to put, you know, stations to put tattoos on. Well, in recent times now, I've discovered that more and more shops have upwards of 12 or more people working for them. And that just amazes me. And I was in one a while back that has 19 tattooers working in that shop. And there's only like 12 stations, but they have different shifts, I guess, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, 19 tattooers working in one shop. And there was several I can name that have 14 working for them in one shop. And I remember a few years back when Jack was number 13, he had a even dozen, and he made a baker's dozen by being the 13th in his shop. And I thought, wow, that was amazing to me then. Now they're going way beyond that even.
It's becoming more commonplace. I mean, larger shops, but I mean, there must also be a lot of demand, you know. So until you keep getting more and more customers, that keep adding more and more artists. I mean,
sure, and that's another thing too. Is quite often, maybe 25 or 30 years ago, I started thinking, well, these guys that had multiple shops. Why do you need multiple shops? And why do you need multiple, your very own convention or your very own machine line or your own color line or your own needle line? And everybody was just starting to enter all these different areas of, you know, tattooing and specializing in that. And I remember getting mad at different individuals for starting yet another supply company. I think, how many do we need, man? You know, and so my feeling is, how many hamburgers does a guy need? You know, if you got a happening shop and you got a good crew, whether it's 6 or a dozen, aren't you satisfied with that? Hell no, a lot of them aren't. They want not just one convention a year, but they want to put on 2 or 3 or something, and you know, have multiple shops all over the world. And you know, well, I guess it's just such a phenomenon that you can do anything you want with it anymore. And it seems to be, it's going to be in demand, you know.
Oh yeah, the demand keeps growing. I think like once you are in this business, you know, and then one thing leads to the other. I think, you know, like as a tattoo artist, you know, like you realize you may have one studio, but you know, you see a gap for another tattoo studio, you just open another one. I mean, or you know, like if you become particularly famous, then okay, then you can have my own tattoo machines with my own brand. I mean,
yeah,
it's you know, like for me, it's the way I see it. It's like almost like a natural evolution of things. Obviously, this was not really common probably 50 years ago, because I don't think the demand was so huge as now. I mean, tattooing it became extremely popular. I mean, it's everywhere now. It's almost weird.
And the technology itself.
Someone with no tattoos, you know, it's.
And the technology behind
all
the
machines. What do you think it has the biggest impact in the last 30 years into?
Are you there? Hello? Sorry.
Yes, I think my connection
Oh.
went up with the
Oh,
not
yeah.
your fault.
So
It's the
anyway,
Wi-Fi which is bouncing a bit.
right. But yeah, so technology has just become, well, it never stops changing. And it always will, I guess. Like you said, it's just the evolution of all things. It's naturally, it's gonna, the more people involved, the more it's gonna change because of their ideas about what's cool or what's not cool. And so it remains to be seen. I mean, I don't want to be tattooed by robots, but I suspect that's out there, you know.
Oh yeah, it's technically possible these days to be tattooed by a robot, but I don't know who wants that, you know.
Yeah.
Or
Well, I
getting
don't know either. But you know, now anymore, I guess my son was telling me where he works that they're all, you know, they're all dialed in with the latest and the greatest in technology. And he's kind of an old timer because he's been tattooing only let's see, 38 years now or something.
Wow.
And so he's kind of, I call him a tweener. He's between the young guys and the old guys, you know. So he knows enough old school. He's old school in his mind. And so he just went to work down here in LA recently for a friend. And he said, wow, I felt like I was a fish out of water. I got to learn all over again, you know, because, because they're up to date, like I said, on everything, but he still draws everything on people. He wants to draw, you know, real art, you know. And so somebody actually made some kind of a nasty comment on the internet about that shop, not, you know, that they considered it a negative that he drew a piece on them instead of relying on the machine,
on digital art,
to reproduce exactly what was reproduced, you know. And he just drew his idea on there, you know, what he wanted or what.
And somebody criticized that. Wow.
And somebody was criticizing that, you know. And I thought, oh my God, we are going backwards now. When you don't want freehand art, which is original as you can get, you know.
It's hard to comprehend this. It's it's funny.
Yeah.
Wow. Another thing I wanted to ask you, it's I mean, you're famous for one of the main behind the fine line.
I'm sorry, say it again. It's like the audio is kind of dying or something. Are you there? Hello?
Okay. No, yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay, so what
Yeah, I'm
did you
still
say?
here, Charlie. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so I was saying like that you're famous for being the father of the fine line movement, and I was wondering like at what point in your life you understood that you were doing something really innovative, and then you create an entire new style out of it. When exactly that happened?
Well, when I went to East LA, and
All right, okay.
yeah, and just was giving them what they wanted, which was fine line black work, you know. And so at that point, I realized it was, well, I was quite surprised that it made a dent on anybody, because I thought, well, I was just doing what the people want from that neighborhood, and I was just giving the people what they want. And so I thought, isn't that what any tattooer should be doing anywhere? And
you never try to impose your own style on customers or something?
do you think oh, well, yeah, I guess we did. We did impose our own style on people because quite often they would just tell us, give us their idea and we just draw it right on them from our standpoint, but we knew the images they liked, the types of things they liked. And so our version of it was even probably cooler than something that they handed us that they said, something like this, or, but sometimes you had people who said, oh no, I want it exactly like that because my brother-in-law drew that and he's been, incarcerated for 5 years or something. And I want to get that, well, you had to duplicate, what they gave you in that particular case. And that's another thing that kind of drew me back into traditional tattooing was I thought, wow, these guys, I want to give them all custom work, but you cannot escape traditionalism because you would have that guy walk up to you that says, the black scratching panther, my grandpa had that and my dad had that and I want that. And I thought, I thought, oh, well, that you got to give them, there's no escape from it, And so, so I finally just threw a mountain of papers with just traditional designs on them out there on a table in another little area where they could sit and go through all that stuff and go, oh, I like this or I like that. Because it was established things that were already out there, but we didn't care nothing about any of that. Unless they wanted it, and sure enough, they wanted it. A certain amount of it, the public will always demand because it was, like I said, it was in their family or something for,
Well, that's an interesting point. So they keep perpetrating the same kind of tattooing for generations.
Yeah,
the same style.
Right, exactly.
That's interesting.
And then, but when we did, when we did our own thing, that was that there was a lot of recognition that was the cool thing to do too. You're not just going to get number 95 off the wall at such and such a shop. You're going to get a whole armful of cool stuff that you thought was cool, and obviously they did too, or they wouldn't let you continue.
But somehow they had to relate to those kind of tattoos because otherwise they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So if they didn't have a lot of reference back then, right? So they would keep continuing to what they were used to. That's just
and a lot of times there was no reference at all. But I believed in freehand creation because I used to stand outside and draw their truck on them, or their car on them, or their motorcycle on them.
Real art.
With
Unique.
a ballpoint pen, and so, or I even did, portraits of their wife sitting next to them or something like that. So I drew from life, so
like from,
that's what,
not from a picture, like from what you were seeing at that time, at that moment.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, I wouldn't be able to name a lot of people who do this now,
Yeah,
I don't know about you, but I think that's a art which is getting lost a little bit. Who does this these days?
Yeah, nobody does that. It's like my son. He said, I feel like a fish out of water down there because, he was a freehand tattooer.
Absolutely fascinating. And but you are retired from tattooing now, right?
Yeah.
Officially for a few years. But I see you're still quite busy with some projects. I saw a book that you made a while ago, The Tattoo Man, along with Jack, which is basically, I think, is a big collection of all your tattoo history, like your own private story.
Yeah.
You want to say anything more about this book that we still don't know about?
Well, I don't have very many left now.
All right. Okay.
I think Jack has a few, but I'm not sure that I really tried to tell a story the way I felt it should be told in my book. And I really wanted Jack, I thought we should do it together because he actually contributed greatly to the success of Black and Gray tattooing. I mean, him and me were together in it from the gate, you know, and actually Kimiko's mother worked for me as well in East LA. And
what was her name?
I had worked with her at the Pike in Long Beach, and I had met her at the downtown at the shop in LA at Skid Row. I had met her there years before then when she was getting her back worked on by Asa Lee Crow. But so I knew her and then worked with her at the Pike. And so when I started in LA, she called me up one day and after about a year, and she said, I just was stopped by your shop and it says open at 5 p.m. till 1 a.m. And she says, what's the story there? How come you're just open nights? And I says, well, that's when I like to work. And Jack can't work without me. So that's when we're open. And so she says, well, why don't you have somebody come in at noon? And I said, well, you can come in at noon if you want to. So she
can do it.
So she started, yeah. And then, but then I had started Creeper after that a little bit too. So I had those 4.
What was her name?
Huh?
The name
Creeper?
of the lady in the.
Oh, Lady Blue. Yeah, Lady Blue.
Lady
Carol.
Blue. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was a cowgirl biker.
How long has she been with you?
Huh? What? What now?
How long has she been working with you? How long did she work with you?
Well, till I sold the shop. I sold the shop to Ed Hardy, and she was still there. But so that was about almost 2 years, I guess, that I was working with her in my shop. But I had worked with her at the Pike for about a year down there. But yeah,
right,
anyway.
Okay. And museum project.
I can't hear you.
I saw you are working on a tattoo museum.
Oh yes, that's well, I'd like to see that happen, and it looks like it's going to. We seem to have major support from everywhere, so I think it's going to happen. But I wanted to be in Long Beach. I thought that would be a good place because West Coast tattooing in Los Angeles or in California was really a lot of good tattooers came out of there. A lot of tattoo history, well, from San Diego all the way up. But in Long Beach, having the Pike there, which at one time, when I first went there in 1959, they said there were 13 tattoo shops there. And
all in one place.
Yeah, all in Long Beach.
Wow.
And Long Beach is the port of Los Angeles. And so I just feel like it's the natural spot for a major museum. And I wanted it to be focused on American tattooing, but you can't escape all the worldwide stuff too. So it's going to be, but I really want it to be to elevate, lift up these guys that are American tattooers, whether they're alive or dead. I want it to be a focal point for tattooers worldwide if they want to come visit. You know, I would like for people from Tokyo to be able to come to Long Beach and visit an American tattoo museum. You know. So
what's the status there? I mean, you're trying to collect.
Trying to what?
Trying to raise funds.
Oh yeah, we're can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, if you can hear me, I can't hear you, it looks like, but
Oh,
if you-
sometimes, yeah, it may be my connection is a little bit dodgy because there is a storm very close to here. I'm
Oh.
streaming from Vietnam, and yeah, it's a little bit of a bad timing, but it's a very bad weather year round. So when the weather is really bad, the connection is a little bit unstable. Normally, it's very good.
Okay, so
not today.
anyway, yeah, we're trying to raise funds for the museum, and we're going to have several different, I guess, fundraising types of fundraising, but we're seeking monetary contributions, obviously, to begin with, and we do have offers of support from everywhere concerning things to exhibit, because that's another reason why I want to do it. Several different tattooers that I've known, that I still know, have said to me through the years, what do we do with all this shit we've collected? You know, and so the only obvious thing is exhibit it somehow, you know.
Of course.
And because everybody, there's so many local shops that have their own little museum activity kind of as a local thing. But I want it to be a place for people to be able to come from anywhere in the world and appreciate what they're looking at, you know. So I think it's going to be widely supported locally, but I don't know about worldwide.
Eventually
have to
worldwide.
see-
Well, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
when
why
do
not?
you plan to open it?
Well, we're in the process now of trying to start. We just now got legal where we have a bank account and everything now where we can start putting monies in there. And, but we're looking for locations now. The city of Long Beach is working with us in a very good way. Everybody from the mayor on down wants it to happen. And so,
Oh, well, okay.
so I'm pretty sure it's going to be okay. I think
I really
we
hope
have,
so. I would like to
Yeah.
visit it if you open it.
well, I think it's going to be probably a minimum. I would think of. One guy told us that he could have this one building ready by next August. And so, but that's if we want to decide on that building or not. And that's just one location we looked at. So we don't know yet, but I'm sure within several months or a year, it'll be a going thing. And we've got the staff from the two people that worked at the Los Angeles History Museum. They're interested in working with us, and you know, they were curators and various things, archivists, and you know, so they know, they're professionals and they're tattooed, and you know, they all came up and got tattooed by me after the exhibit we did in LA 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, well.
And so they're all, you know, jazzed about it. Well,
And if
one of them
someone
died.
wants to,
Pardon me? Huh?
I was saying, like, if somebody wants to support your project, where can we see it? Oh, sorry, the connection is again a little bit unstable. So now I was saying, like, if someone wants to support your project,
Yeah.
where can we see it? Or do you have a web page or something where people can get information or send money, whatever, to help out?
Well, it's at Goodtime Charlie _ Cartwright.com.
So it's basically your website.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
personal
So
website.
if you go to that website, you'll see Kimiko's put a lot of stuff on there that, well, I think I'm directing you right. I'm pretty sure, because she's the one that's in charge of really everything that
All the
has to-
computer stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and she organizes everything, and what would I do without her? She's a good one. That's for sure.
You're lucky
And
to have her.
oh, I certainly am. Thank God for her. Yeah. Yeah. She was actually the manager of Los Lobos band for 17 years. So she's connected with the music industry very well. And so
Mm.
she knows how entertainment and all that stuff works with the media. And so, yeah, I'm very thankful to have her. Yeah.
That's nice. And for you, like I, I don't know if you're still in some kind of lockdown or restrictions, but do you plan to go to any conventions in the near future, or not? And it's
Well, I may go to a few if I don't have to fly. I'm not going to fly anywhere anymore. I'm
connect.
just sick of all that. And so,
Oh, you're not flying. You're not flying, right?
no,
Okay.
no more. I'm tired of
No
that.
more. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a pity.
So no, I won't be flying to any. But if they're in Western U.S., I may go to it. Or Midway or something. But there's not very many that have been happening due to the COVID.
No, last 2 years next to zero. So now they're starting again. But
Yeah, they
it
are.
depends on the states. Some are doing better than others. I'm not sure exactly about your region right now, but yeah, eventually something will come up. I was wondering someone could still meet you at some conventions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I do a lot. Like I said, in the last couple of years, I like to do on the road and just stop in randomly at shops. That's
Shops,
to
right?
me the best thing, because you end up with end up meeting people that you would never meet. Obviously, at conventions you can too, but when I'm on the road, some of these people are never going to go to a convention, and I talk to plenty of them who are not interested in conventions at all. They're just hometown tattooers. They open at 12, they close at 8, they go home and watch TV with their kids or something,
Right. Yeah.
And that seems to be the norm anymore. And so I like to stop in and just visit their shops. And that way I, tell a few stories, take a few photos, and sell a few items, sometimes books, sometimes posters, sometimes prints. I've got quite a selection of things that they could buy. And
I can imagine.
yeah, and so
I saw some of your pictures in your shops, and you seem to have like a huge collection, also flash arts and any kind of memorabilia. I mean, must be massive. I mean,
yeah, and most of it now is in my storage.
right.
And when I get the museum going, I'll put a lot of it in there for sure. But I'm going to sell all my originals eventually. But I'm going to make a book out of them before I turn them all loose.
As well. So you still have a lot of plans.
Yeah. So we're going to work on that next. That's not my next major thing, is a book of my originals.
It's okay. So it's a new book. Only original. I mean, you mean original art flashes, or?
Yeah, it was just all my original flash, actually.
Right. That's nice. You never did something like this before? Would that be your first one? Like a real book?
Yeah, it'll be the first one, because I never made commercial flash for any reason, because I thought they just bootleg it immediately and start selling it themselves. And I thought, piss on these guys. They're never going to be able to bootleg this. And so I made the big sheet called Something for Everybody. And I made that in 1983 and 4, in the winter of 83 and 4. And I've been selling that now for 36 or 37 years, whatever it is now. And I still mail them out all over the world. And that's it's 40 by 60, 40 wide by 60 long, and 254 designs on there. And I thought, that's my contribution to the Flash world. And that's the only commercial Flash I'm really making, you know? And so let's see you assholes bootleg that, you know? And so I'm still mailing them out, and I made 1 million burritos behind that sheet, you know?
I believe that.
Yeah. So it's just that was my one-time contribution to Flash. That would be sold for commercial use, you know?
Right.
But I made a lot of Flash, but for my own shop, you know?
Is it, and what's a theme you like the most in Flash art? Because, you know, obviously like you do a lot of, mostly all black and gray, but is there any particular theme in the Flash art that you like to do the most?
A theme?
A theme. Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of just the like lowrider type stuff, the girls and the roses and the,
right.
You know, well, that's what I know. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and there is also like an endless amount of variation you can do that. I mean, you can go on forever. I mean, designing this stuff.
Yeah, it's just like Jack he's got four things that he deals with consistently, and it's just variations on it continuously. It's a girl and a rose and a skull. Those are the 3 main things, and then once in a while he'll squeeze a dragon or something in there, but usually it's a girl, a skull, and a rose. That's the key. You know? That's
the 3 things.
Yeah, for him, you know. But I do a lot of things having to do with the crucifixion, the Christ, because I think he's the answer to everything, in my opinion. And
you do a lot more.
I honor the Lord, yeah.
Right.
I honor the Lord with a lot of art. I like to lift him up, you know.
Well, it must be like very, very popular as well still.
Oh, it is.
Religion.
Yeah. Religious things, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's once again, it comes from the Mexican you know, culture, you know, and that's what I know. Even though I'm a white boy, I'm kind of, well, you know, at times I even think in Spanish. So even though I'm a white boy, I'm kind of a odd one, you know. I'm part Mexican to some degree.
You have some Latino blood.
Just for being exposed to it always, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand it. Charlie, I think it's getting it has been great talking to you, and a huge honor. I mean, this has been a pretty valuable conversation, and I could go on like forever to listen to you. So I hope I can meet you sometimes, maybe, I don't know, like at your museum.
And where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Vietnam.
You live in Vietnam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a few. Yeah, I've been here for the last 7 years on and off, and 3 years as a resident. And yeah. And yeah, that's what I do. I live here. I love it here. So, but I come from Europe. I'm originally from Italy. So.
Did you marry someone from there?
Yes, my wife is Vietnamese.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I got a little daughter here, and growing up here. This inside is my studio here, and then on the side I actually primarily run Water to Events, which is this website about tattoo conventions. And yeah, this is why we were doing this. You know, again, like I always try to get to know a little bit more about the past that I'm not really familiar with, which in my case is a lot of the US history, which has been very prominent in the tattoo culture. But then again, I wasn't around at that time. So this is something which I try to learn more of, you know.
Do we have time for one more convention story, or?
What?
Yeah. Do we have time for one more convention story, or do you have another convention story that
the craziest story at or no. Okay, one thing is like do you have any tattoo convention which had a real impact on your career as a tattoo artist?
Well, I would say the first one there,
The first one.
76 in Reno, that changed everything,
Right.
But meeting Hardy and Malone, Ed Hardy and Mike Malone, that changed everything because they're the ones that were popular as traditional tattooers, I guess you'd say. And so that's why I was so, I guess, amazed that Hardy or any of those guys even found my operation interesting. I thought, wow, all we're doing is catering to the neighborhood, so I don't understand what's so magnificent about that, but it was just that the fine lines and stuff that was so fascinating to them. So anyway,
well, maybe that was
yeah.
something new for them still.
Yeah, so that was a game changer for, I guess, the world, really.
Yeah, well, no doubts. I mean, at the end of the day, like a lot of the history of tattooing and tattoo convention, it always goes back to that single event, and I always try to find out if there were some other events which had such a huge impact in the industry, but do you remember what was it like to be at that event? I mean, do you remember some of the people walking around, or what was the vibe at that convention? Do you remember any of that?
Well, yeah, I remember Sammy from Germany was there, and well, I can't tell you who all was there because I wasn't all that interested in other tattooers, I guess. I just didn't quite, I just went because Jack and Poco wanted to go.
Drag you there.
Yeah. And so I remember actually going to the car for something and walking back. It was at a casino, a building that had a casino in it. So I went to the car for something and I came back and I was walking into the tattoo room. But when I was leaving the casino, I just felt like something was somebody grabbed my arm, and I turned around and there was nobody there. And I thought, wow, maybe I'm supposed to play that machine. And so I went over and I started just making money, big time off of it. And I thought, well, maybe it's not just this one, it might be that one too. So I started playing both machines, and oh my God, I was just making bank and left and right. And so I felt so sorry for one guy from New York who he was so excited that I was winning. He started putting all his money in a machine, and he spent all his airfare and everything and lost it all, But I mean, I just won a lot of money, and I so that was quite exciting for me right there. I was there several hours, so who knows what those tattooers were doing over there. But yeah, I went to conventions, but I didn't always, I don't know. It wasn't like I was avoiding any of these guys. I just didn't have nothing in common with a lot of,
Well, yeah, that's interesting to hear. I mean,
just because they were tattooers, that didn't mean anything to me.
You had something in common, all right?
Because I remember Fred Thornton telling me when I worked with him eventually at the bike, he told me when somebody came running in and they said, hey, Don Nolan's back down at Burt Graham's, which was 2 blocks away. And he says, I wouldn't walk across the street to talk to another tattooer. And that was the general attitude of most of them, so it was.
No, I know that played a huge role back then. I think it's harder for the newer generation to even understand that. Like, I mean, some of them they may be a little bit like this, but I mean, back then it's hard maybe to understand that you guys didn't really I don't know, I wouldn't say get along, but really fancy each other. You know, I mean, everybody was doing his own trade, and you know, and guarding off a little bit what the rest was doing. It's an interesting dynamic to me. I think it's radically different these days. Everybody most people mingle in and try to get to know everyone else.
In Los Angeles, or in Southern California in general, if you were heavily tattooed and you walked into somebody else's shop, right away you were a suspect of being in there trying to scope them out and you know, be a competitor or something. So you always got mad dogged. They would always stare at you and say, who are you? Where are you from? And you know, it was always that, yeah, what do you want? And so it was that kind of a thing, you know. And it was just you weren't always welcome in everybody's shop, you know. But it was, the Southern California was a lot different than Northern California. Just that there was much more camaraderie in San Francisco, and but in Los Angeles, you got the evil eye if you came in the shop, you know, unknown, and so that it's way different now. But I even said it when speaking to these 70 guys up north recently. I said, you know, it used to be that there was always that kind of attitude, I guess one would say. But I says, the good book tells us that I'm commanded to love them all. I don't like them all, but I bear none of them ill will, you know, I'll say that, you know. And so, but years ago, it was way different, you know, and you really weren't really welcome in anybody else's shop a lot of times.
Yeah, that's amazing. Could you tell? Sorry, I don't mean to hop in, but could you tell us a little bit about the studio that you did that talk in recently?
About
what? You visited the tattoo studio within the last year and did like a seminar or a talk?
Oh yeah, I went up to Spokane, Washington, and up to a shop called Anchored Art, and they called me and told me that they were having their 10th year anniversary, and they wanted me to come and visit and just speak to all these tattooers, and this is pretty. I think this is really cool. The owner of the shop, Jeremy, he said, I'm from Southern California and I'm a black and gray tattooer. He says, but when I moved here to Spokane 10 years ago, I asked everybody for a job. Nobody would talk to me. So he says, so I opened my own shop. So he says, so now I'm inviting all these guys who would not hire me to come listen to you talk. And he had a room in the building where one of his shops is, upstairs, that they use for multiple uses. And he said, I can fit 70 chairs in there. And so he invited the whole town to show up by invitation only. You know, he requested all these guys, and they did show up. And I spoke to all of them concerning apprenticeships, ethics, many different things. I just addressed that would be maybe informational to a new tattooer that only been at it 5 years or 10 years, something like that. So I spoke to all of them, and I set up or he set up tables in the hallway there and for my merchandise. And so after speaking with all these guys, which some of them didn't know what each other even looked like. They just heard rumors or heard names tossed around, and you know, referring to each other as, oh, that asshole around the corner or stuff like that. Well, they were all there, and there was no hard feelings, no fights. In fact, a lot of was so much camaraderie going on, it was amazing. And so he said, man, this turned out great, because he said all these guys showed up, and plus I sold mega merchandise too. And so that was good. But yeah, so anyway, I just addressed things that I thought would be useful to a lot of these, like you said earlier, history is only what most people don't think beyond their own existence,
Exactly.
And so they don't give a hoot about history, a lot of them. They just think about the here and now. But anyway, it was very interesting sharing with all these guys up there as well as with you. It's just nice to be able to pass things on.
I think it's really important. I mean, at the end of the day, like we are here now because of what happened before and what you guys made. Like back then at the time, you didn't know you were making history with what you're doing.
Yeah,
but that eventually turned that way, right? And I think looking back for you, it's and like what you did throughout your life, and the huge contribution you give to this industry. And like you may say, like, well, I didn't really get along with some of the tattoo artists, and I have the feeling sometimes hearing you talking that somehow you maybe even felt a little bit like an outsider. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes like you really want to do your own thing, and I don't think that you really cared about what everybody else was doing or what they were thinking about.
I did. Exactly. I just wanted to satisfy my community,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make people happy in my neighborhood, and because I'm not I don't think of myself as a world traveler. I don't really care what's out there, thousands of miles away from me. That's not my world,
Right.
So I mean, yes, it's my earth, but it's part of my earth. But I don't really care about all that. That's another thing. I never did quite understand guest artisting either, because I thought you should just stick to your own shop. And so when they started all that running around, flying here and there and everywhere, and visiting him and visiting her, and I thought, what the hell is that all about? Just like Jack, I thought, you're not even in your own shop anymore,
Too much traveling.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, like maybe some tattoo artists, they want to learn different things in different places, and I don't know, maybe different styles or techniques, whatever. But
right. Well, I get it that they're different people, so they're gonna do that, but that's just not my thing, So
you're always being very local.
Yeah.
In your community.
Yeah. I'm just a local American guy that, like my wife told me when I forget, somebody asked us to go to, if we were going to, I think England, to one of the big shows there years ago. And
maybe
and my wife said, oh, I don't care what's over there. And I said, well, you just saved me a lot of money because I don't care either. And so we didn't go. But then when Hank had his when he reopened his shop in Amsterdam, I went over there with my oldest son for that.
Hanky Panky.
Yeah, Hanky Panky. And then I also went when he opened the museum. I took my younger son over there with me. That's the only 2 times I've been to Europe, and I went both of those times because it was Hank's thing going on, and I love that guy.
Right. How did you meet Hank? Did he come to US first, and you met him somewhere in US, or you just met him in Amsterdam?
No, well, I've met him at conventions in America.
There you go.
But then he said I've had 3 different people that work for him work for me, and so I became more acquainted with him through that, through their relationship. but yeah, anyway, I love that guy. He's he's really a humorous cat. I love it.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Well, it's probably the most famous in Holland. I mean, it's I've been growing up watching what he was doing, and I've been many times to his tattoo studio as a kid in a red light district. You know, so for me, it was like the local hero.
Yeah.
Tattooer, you know, and then like once he tattooed the Red Hot Chili Peppers and stuff like that, I was a kid again, like, and I saw this stuff happening. I was like, I gotta see where this happening, and that was in Amsterdam, and that was awesome. Did you also go to the tattoo conventions he made in Amsterdam back in the?
I didn't go to no conventions there.
Oh, okay. Just curiosity. I mean,
but one time I did ask my wife. I said, "Do you want to go to Hank's convention?" And then, well, that was the first year that Russians were having a convention in Moscow, and I said,
Yeah,
"Well,
right.
we'll just go to Moscow from there." And she said, "Oh, I don't care what's over there. I'm not going." So okay.
So no Moscow, no London.
Yeah.
So the Russians, you mean Pavel Angel in Moscow?
Yeah. Well, I don't know who all was there because I didn't go.
Oh yeah, all right, okay, yeah. Now we get that's the oldest one, and
yeah, and I didn't go to the very first one in Tokyo that they had. Mark,
King of Tattoo.
Permanent Mark, he told me, "Come on, Charlie," and I said, I don't want to go over there, and so I didn't go. And I went to Japan. I went through Japan one time, going to Guam, and just like my wife said, if you don't understand the language and the money is funny, what are we doing there? You don't know what you're eating. What the hell are we even doing there? So I wasn't interested in going back. To
Right. So, but how long did you stay in Japan? I mean, at the end, like how long did you?
Oh, we just went through there, going to Guam. So we were only there like half a day or something.
Oh,
and
okay.
we just had a nightmare of the time with trying to catch the train and stuff. We didn't know the language, and But anyway, I know
is hard.
I know if I would have went over there with Mark, it would have been different, because I would have had the connection, But I still wasn't. I wasn't interested in going.
Right.
I just not. It's just that's their culture, and I'm an American, So.
Right. No, I understand that. I mean, it's well, I mean, for me, Japan, it's extremely fascinating. But yeah, I'm in this perspective, I'm different. I like to go everywhere, so that's my thing. Because why I started Waterbury events as well. But I could travel, go to conventions, and see the world at the same time.
Yeah, well, I guess I've seen all I care to see. I don't care what's out there, especially anymore with COVID and everything, and the regulations with flying. And well, I don't want to. I haven't flown anyway for years. For years,
no, that's hard. Yeah.
Not even caring about COVID. I still haven't flown in years since I last flight I flew out of was Mexico, and from a convention there in Guadalajara, and
oh yeah.
And I would never go back to Mexico.
That wasn't a good experience.
No, they had they had people on trapezes and all kind of body modification.
Oh, yeah. The Mexicans, they go pretty hard down into body modifications.
Yeah, a lot of freak. It was a freak show,
Yeah.
And so even the promoter of the show, he tells me, he says, "So Charlie Cartwright," he said it real shitty. "So Charlie Cartwright, you're gonna come back next year?" And I told him in Spanish. I said, "¿Sabes qué, hombre? No doy una cagada por todo lo de este." You know what?
I only understood cagada. Cagada means shit, or
yeah. You know what, man? I don't give a shit about any of this. And he
says, right, there you go.
He says, "So what do you like? And I said, you know what my ideal day consists of? And he said, what? And I said, having lunch with my wife in a local restaurant in my hometown. That's my ideal day right there.
Not going to
And he just shook his
Guadalajara.
head. He just shook his head. I'm just a simple man, though, I guess. But
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, hey, we all have our own things. I mean,
yeah,
but no, but it's interesting for me. So you went to Mexico, and was it shocking a little bit for you, like the environment there in Mexico, because of all those body modifications?
oh, you know, with the putting, they all want, you know,
The horns.
they put all the big marbles under their skin and the horns and
Yeah.
you know and
Chopping their ears off,
you know
nose.
and their ear you know ears dripping down to their shoulders and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
like the old indigenous people used to practice all the different tribal rites and stuff. And anyway, it was that kind of a show. And even though I had a free booth and a free room and all that stuff, you know, I told him I wouldn't be back. No, wasn't interested in that kind of a show. Yeah.
I understand. But so have you been to any other outside of US convention except
see.
Mexico? Yeah.
I guess I haven't been.
Right. So
Oh yes, well, I went.
you did.
Well, Hawaii is that's still America.
That's
I went
still
to
America,
Hawaii.
but it's far away.
Yeah, I went there. I've been to Hawaii several times, but I'm not going back even then. And they called me and want me to come over there. And I told them I've been there. I don't care about going back. And even Michael Malone, when he was there, he used to call me Charles. And he said, Charles, how come you never come to see me in Hawaii? And I says, well, it is just a rock out there in the ocean. And he said, well, it's more than a rock. And I said, okay, it's got a few palm trees. And anyway, I eventually did going to Guam to see my son. We stopped in there the first time, you know, that's when we rerouted to Japan. And, but then we went back 2 or 3 times after that, me and my wife. We went over there once just to see every island that was there, just to know we did. And, you know, and then I went back to a convention there, 5 or 6 years ago. They called me up, said, oh, come on, and we'll pay your way, take care of you and all that. And I said, oh, all right. So I did. And then they called me recently and wanted me to come back. And I said, I'm not, thanks, but no thanks. You know,
Right. Okay.
I love you from where I'm at.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can love you from over here.
Enjoy the show, whatever you are. Like,
Yeah. So those are the only 2 conventions outside of the mainland that I've ever went to. And I went to the Virgin Islands, but to get tattooing started down there. But I never did, you know, there was no convention or anything. And I actually only worked there 2 weeks after I even got it licensed and everything, and then turned it over to somebody else. But and even then, my wife said when we come back to the States, she says, I'm just interested in terra firma US. That's all I care about. And even though we were in an American territory over there,
it was too far.
It was, you know, it's just too different, you know, because there was reverse prejudice over there. You know, they didn't like us white boys coming over there, running their rent up where they couldn't even pay rent anymore, you know, on the paradise of you know, the mainlanders, you know.
Yeah.
And I realized it was very much that way when you go to the market and they would just pick up they wouldn't even look at you. They would just pick up your article and tell the machine or call off the price or ring it up, whatever, throw it down the slide it down the counter, and they throw your change down there. They wouldn't bag up nothing for you. It was just, because here they were having to work 2 or 3 jobs to even pay rent in their homeland, because the Americans were running the rent up, So
I guess
it
that's
was
what a lot
kind
of
of
people have to do.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. So those are the only conventions I'd went to, like I said. But
Outside of US. And in US, last question. I mean, obviously, you've probably been tattooing at conventions. Did you ever get tattooed at conventions?
Get tattooed at conventions? Oh, yeah. Yeah, on the Queen Mary.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, on the Queen Mary when Hardy had that show, when he put that on, I got tattooed by Bob Roberts and Beasley, Tom Beasley from Massachusetts or New England or New Hampshire, wherever he's from back there in New England. And let's see. Oh, and Jack's tattooed me at conventions. And and in the room though,
Oh, not on the convention floor.
Yeah.
A night in a room.
Yeah. And I don't know. There hasn't been too many times I've been tattooed at a convention, but a few times. And but I never tattooed at conventions until recently.
Oh, you never did? Oh, I was taking for granted you've been tattooing at hundreds of conventions, but
no, I never tattooed at any convention because
oh wow.
Yeah, because I thought, man, I work my ass off in my shop. I come to these places to play,
right.
and
Not to work
socialize,
again.
So I never, although I remember one lady stopped me in a lobby when she was leaving the hotel and said, "I've been saving my leg, a place on my leg for your signature." And I go, "Yeah." She said, "Let's do it right now." And I go, "How can we do it right now?" And she said, and she had a guy with her that had a little machine that was in a power pack in his pocket, little miniature power supply. And so they had the ink and everything. And she says, "Right now, just do it." And I said, "Okay." So she propped her leg up on a couch and I just tattooed my leg right on my name, right on her leg. And
I never heard about anything like this. Somebody coming like with a tattoo machine again. Let's do it right now. That's
and then one time a girl told me that she says, "I've been saving you're the last name I need on my foot on my tattoo slippers." She said, "I've collected all the people I admire in this business on my foot." So I signed her foot. But I rarely ever tattooed like that even, because I thought, well, my life's more than putting on tattoos, even though that's all I did at home,
yeah.
I'd be there till, all night sometime. But yeah, anyway, so in recent times, though, probably the past 4 or 5 years or something, people would say, "Come on, man, you still can do it. Why don't you do it?" And so I started putting my initials on them for some money. And
and were like light tattoo or
it's just GTC I put on them,
All right.
And so they would sometimes just line up and say, "Oh, are you putting on tattoos? I'll take one. I'll take one. I'll take one." So, when I was in Reno, probably 2 or 3 years ago, I guess, one guy says, "Come on, man." He says, "I'll set you up right there in my booth. I'll set you up and right there." And I said, "Okay." And so this other guy, and he says, "So what do you charge for that?" And I said, $300. And he he says, okay, that's cool, man. So then the guy behind him says, well, hey, man, my boot's next to his. Hit me next, and I'll set you up and tear it down. And so I did 10 booths right in a row.
Wow. Like the whole row, like one after the other one.
Yeah, immediately. So that was, wow. That was probably only maybe an hour and a half worth of work between all 10 of them, you know, because it was just because I would do it different on each one of them, depending on the hole they gave me or the spot they gave me to work with. I'd do it different sizes and different styles, so forth. And so
it's
anyway,
nice. It tells you how much people admire you as well. I mean, you know, like each
so
of them will get a tattoo from you, you know?
10 of those guys did like $3 grand in like an hour and a half or something, you know.
300 the pop.
But
Nice.
yeah, anyway, so I do that once in a while. And even on the road, sometimes people will ask me if I'm just stopping in shops. And they say, do you ever do that? And I go, well, 3 bills, I'll put my initials on you. And they go, okay. So I'll
That's
do it
it.
even on the road sometime,
Wow.
but not every
Nice.
time. It depends on the mood I'm in and what I got going that day. But sometimes I'll say, yeah, let's do it right now then. And they'll go, oh, okay, man. You know, so
Oh yeah, the better take the occasion now, right?
it works out good.
I
Quite
believe that.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you do not normally tattoo anymore, like out of a studio
Oh,
or something.
no.
So only like in this kind of occasions, wherever you're like at some event or at some other tattoo
Yeah,
studio.
just a little souvenir thing. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not interested. I've stood on my head and laid on my side, and I've went in all these weird positions through all my life to accommodate the people, and I don't feel like I owe anybody anything anymore.
No, definitely not. No, why would you? I mean,
Yeah. So
after all you did,
huh?
after all you did already,
Yeah.
you know. So,
Yeah.
Gabe, is there anything else you want to add?
No, except all I would like to say is if tattooing has been good to you, well, be good to tattooing and kick down some money for
There you
this
go.
museum. Because
Yes.
it's going to be your museum as well as anybody else's. You know, if you're a tattoo lover, well, you're going to appreciate this place when we get done with it, because I want it to really reflect the complete history and knowledge that can be passed on from all the different, potentials that are out there. Oh my God, every tattooer has not just stuff, but they've got stories galore.
A lot.
And so Kimiko's wanting to do a docuseries on, like interviewing people, having people interview their mentor or someone they respect, and or just a tattooer that can tell 20 funny stories in 40 minutes or something, you know, that are tattoo related, you know. So I think it's going to be good, that aspect of it all. And it's never ending. I mean, God, we got millions of tattooers now. And so think how many cool stories there are.
Yes, yeah. An infinite amount of supply in this perspective, in stories. Do you already have a name for your museum?
Yeah, it's Tattoo Heritage Project Incorporated.
What was the name again? Sorry.
Tattoo Heritage Project.
Oh, Tattoo Heritage Project. Okay.
Incorporated, yeah.
Okay, so that would be the official name of the museum.
Yeah, well, that's the name of the project as we know it now. I mean, it may have a different name when we put a sign on it, but as far as I know, it's gonna just remain that Tattoo Heritage Project.
Heritage.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't want to give it your own name to it?
My own name?
Yeah.
You know,
Charlie Tattoo Museum.
Well, that would be pretty. What would one call it? Egotistical, I guess.
Okay.
And,
yes, I understand.
And just like 3 of the board members are part of my family, so that not my natural family, but my tattoo family, and so I thought, wow, I don't want this just to be a Goodtime Charlie family project, because outsiders may think, oh, they think they're so somebody, you know, they're all because they're all connected or something. So I asked Carrie Barba to be on the board from Long Beach, and she has Burt Graham's historical shop, you know, and a mini museum going there already. And so I asked her, and I asked J.D. Crow from the East Coast. I didn't want it to just be a West Coast thing, and because I want it to be really, you know, I'm obviously the founder, and it will be known then, I guess, you know, I'm the founder of it, but it's not, it's really for the world. It's not for just for me, you know.
It's a larger project.
Huh?
It's a larger project. I mean,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
more open to anyone, if I understand you well.
Yeah, and we want, and you know, ultimately, I still believe it can happen. I really want to have either in close proximity to, or somewhere in the neighborhood, I want to have like a bazaar, a marketplace actually, for anybody and everybody that's got tattoo stuff. Or, I mean, you could have just a sign painter on the scene, and he could just be sitting there just doing anything that people's requests are, you know. And or you could have a guy that's a machinist that could actually sell his machines right there and demonstrate them and all that.
On a spot.
I want to do that as a complete marketplace for people to have an outlet for anything and everything that's tattoo related. And Jack tells me, oh, you can do that on the internet. And I go, you can't handle all this stuff. And you can't, I mean, it's totally different. If you're picking up some, say, cool old machine that somebody owned that you admire, and you can handle it and talk to the guy about the price and everything, it's, you know, it's just so different than the screen, you know. And so that's the second thing I want to focus on, is getting a marketplace for American tattooers to, mostly it'll be local Southern California guys, I suspect, obviously, because somebody's not going to be flying in and out of there just to sell his stuff. But, you know, no matter what project or thing that you've got going yourself, I want it to be operational, available for the public to look at and talk to you. And if you want that, you know, I want that to be happening.
I think it's a great idea.
So
that should happen in more places.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't want it to be quite like a flea market, but yet I want it to be, have some semblance of cool about it, you know, obviously. But I want anybody and everybody to be able to discuss or sell anything they got that's apart from the museum, you know. Obviously, if people have merchandise, or let's say not merchandise, but it could be merchandise, they could have an item that's on loan to the museum. And if enough people inquire about it or want to buy it, well, obviously the guy who owns it, he could sell it right out of the museum to some, you know, independent, you know, on the side deal with someone, and because it's just on loan anyway, you know. But so you could actually have a marketplace somewhat within the museum, but it's mainly just for stuff being shown temporarily or for a while, you know, an exhibit.
I think it makes it a lot more interesting, because you will have like an ever-changing rotation of memorabilia or products, or you know, whatever it is that you want to sell. I think it's interesting, this one.
And
it's nice, and it's quite unique.
Yeah, and and we could focus on not just areas or regions, and focus on, these were New York tattooers from so and so year to so and so year, and this is the these are the guys and some of their stuff. There's a million ways to
display,
put it all together. But I've got enough creative minds, I think, behind me that it can all happen quite beautifully, I believe. Because I don't want to be, I don't want it. Obviously, it's, I guess you'd say, my baby to some extent, but I don't want to think of it as that it's strictly my thing. I don't want that, even though I don't care if people know that I'm involved, but it's not all about me. It's about the promoting tattooing so people can learn. An outsider can walk in there and learn so much. That's what I want it to be, to where you can have a little theater for a continuous showing of different things, or several different areas where you could sit down in front of a machine, hit a button, and watch anybody and everybody from way back, whatever information we have on them. And I know it's going to be good. I can sense it already.
A way back in interactive machine, that would be cool. Like, that tells you select the region of the world and it tells you who was there at that time.
Yeah.
Right. And what happened. That would be amazing.
Yeah, right.
That's a big project, though. Yeah.
It sounds amazing. If obviously we got to catch up again, and if there's anything that we could do to help get the word out, count us in for sure. Do you want to maybe close us out and just kind of let people know that they could go to the website, buy some shirts, or donate, and we'll get a nice, good, concise little clip to close out with, maybe?
Well, I kind of didn't get everything you said, but I'll say, obviously, we would like all the contributions monetarily, but eventually we're going to have an archive to store all the stuff that's being donated for exhibit. We don't want to take, and we've got so many people that want to give us stuff right now that we're not ready for that yet. We got to have a place to store all this stuff, to protect it and secure it, in a good place until such time as this to be exhibited. So as long as we know that we've got a contact with them, that we know they're interested in giving something for display, whether it's flash or whatever, it doesn't matter. We will contact you at the time. If people have an interest in donating stuff, well, we'll take the information, but we're not going to collect the stuff until we can actually protect it in a good way. And so
that makes sense.
Yeah. So we don't have an archive established yet, even though people call and say, well, I got this or that, and, would you be interested? Well, yeah, but not tomorrow. maybe in a couple months or 6 months or something, we'll be able to take all this stuff in, but we'll have to see how all that rolls out.
Sounds good, Charlie. Like we spread the word. We try to help as much as possible with this project, and as soon as you will have a place, then I think we'll have to let the word know, so that then only that time they can start.
Yeah, well, we're working on it now. We've got 3 or 4 people that are involved in the city of Long Beach that are interested in promoting this, and so I know it's going to happen, but we've just got to let it happen in the way it should,
Of course, gradually.
Okay, Alex. Well, I got to say, Charlie, you're a great host, And
Oh, thank you. I just like to listen, to be honest. It's more than what I talk.
well, I'm halfway around the world from you, but I appreciate everything you're doing, and I hope you have a good life if I don't ever see you in person.
Thank you. Well, I hope to do still,
Yeah. I hope to get the museum going to someday you have enough, interest or activity over in the States to drop by.
I definitely will.
Okay. Well, once again, thanks to you and your friend Gabe there for helping us get going here.
Charlie, thank you to you. A massive thank you for this. And yeah, we stay in touch, and for events, please, always refer to waterdoevents.com to see the upcoming tattoo conventions in a word. And Charlie, thanks again for talking to us today.
Okay.
Wish you all the very best
Awesome.
with all your future projects.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll talk soon. Cheers. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye now. Thank you once again.